Welcome to Perspectives in Mobile, the news podcast from the Mobile Ecosystem Forum. Join us discussing the world of telecommunications, technology, and mobile innovations. From Florence, Riccardo Amati.
As rich communication services or RCS adoption grows, so do security threats. Spammers and cybercriminals are exploiting encryption, adapting their tactics to target users. Today, we speak with Michael Laudon, Vice President of Cloudmark at Proofpoint, to unpack these evolving risks. Hi, Michael. Thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Michael is a technology executive with nearly 30 years of experience, leading engineering, product management, marketing, sales, and operations, built and scaled teams, driving even more than $200 million in revenue, overseeing 430 million acquisition, lot of things. Experienced in both startup and large organization with a focus on strategy, efficiency, and business growth. What brought you to Proofpoint or to this stage of your career, Michael?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So, what brought me to Proofpoint was obviously the challenges that the world is facing in cybersecurity. So that was obviously one of the big points of interest in the fact that Proofpoint protects people, protects data, protects it's the one of the world leaders in cybersecurity, and being a part of that was obviously a very fulfilling thing and something that I wanted to do. And so I joined Proofpoint with that goal. And with the goal of having working with a fantastic team and fantastic organization and just building out something that's really fantastic and that does the best in the business to protect consumers and people around the world.
And that's what we are going to talk about and discuss about
That's
key
right.
security challenges, including spam, phishing, malicious content, and unauthorized messaging routes. How can operators and service providers protect users? This kind of question are asking Michael. And first of all, as RCS, which is our focus in this podcast, adoption grows, spammers are exploiting its encryption. How are attackers adapting their techniques, Michael? Is it the shift from SMS to RCS a concern, or should be just an advantage for customers and for the business, the industry?
Right. So RCS is definitely a growing communication channel, and as one of the features in RCS is the end-to-end encryption. Now, there are still some nuances because between iPhone and Android, encryption isn't yet in place, but ultimately the goal is to get there. And when we talk about this, let's make sure we differentiate between two things. So there's person-to-person messaging, which we're going to refer to as RCS, and then there's business messaging or application to person, and we call that RCS business messaging, or I'll refer to as RBM in short. And there are some differences in implementation between those two, so there'll be different opportunities. But to answer your question, yes, RCS and the encryption within RCS does provide some unique challenges from a perspective of providing protection. And that forces us to look at different ways of protecting consumers and providing the best threat protection out there. Moving towards sender reputation, towards different types of volumetrics, and looking at traffic patterns. There's a lot of different things that can be done with policy and with AI and various tools that we have that we can take on this task. But yes, it's absolutely something that we look at and will provide a different paradigm for message protection.
From what I understand, RCS offers encryption, but it doesn't ensure trustworthiness of the sender. How does this impact RCS security? And what role do companies like yours play in mitigation these risks?
Yeah, that's right. So absolutely, it doesn't provide sender. It doesn't ensure that the sender is not a malicious actor, and that's the big factor right there. Is that with encryption, you've got a message stream that is obviously end-to-end encrypted. You can't do any sort of content detection or anything like that. So you really need to develop sender reputation, and that is where right now, in cases where you don't have protection, the MNO and the various parties do not have visibility into what's happening in their network. And providing sender reputation is critical. And that's how we actually, with our what we call our mobile abuse visibility service, which is what we get subscriber feedback, and that is used to help us build out sender reputation along with other metrics. But providing sender reputation and building out those capabilities is critical in RCS.
So old commerce with the customers is still important.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I missed the first part of the question.
So, I mean, the communication with customers is still the old style communication with customers is, as in every business, is still very important.
Sure. Like anything, getting feedback from the people that are using the product is important. And in the way that we deploy our system, it's obviously automated feedback. You can push on report junk, for example, on the iPhone, and it ends up coming back to the MNO, and that data can then be looked at, and we can look at these senders and provide a sender reputation.
Only way to do it. How do unauthorized communication channels and A2P, application to person messaging, affect telecom operators and the RCS ecosystem? What's the role of securing A2P in protecting RCS?
Well, there's several things that are there. One is that there's gray routes, so basically revenue leakage, in the sense that business messaging is, as is in the word, it is a business, and it is where the MNOs get their revenue. It helps support the entire ecosystem, so it's important that this channel remains secure, and that there remains trust within these networks and within the consumer. And so the challenge there is that with gray routes, people can use channels where they don't have to pay, and they send business messaging, and then obviously there's revenue leakage. But there's also, if we don't maintain a clean business messaging channel, then the end consumer loses confidence in their messaging, and that's an important aspect where there is a high level of confidence in text messaging. And so we want to continue to have that because it is an important factor for people to trust and use this as a business platform.
Anyway, spammers exploit RCS group chat feature for higher volumes of attacks. And what solutions can help detect and mitigate these tactics, these attacks?
At a certain level, there's really no difference to the attacks. I mean, it looks like, obviously, you can put together a group chat. You can try to put a name to that group chat so that it looks like it's coming from, pick a brand. But those are in a person-to-person. That's all encrypted, and so there's not visibility there. So it really gets back to making sure that you maintain the integrity of the channel, that you have the subscriber, the sender reputation, and that you maintain that within the channel. So it really gets back to looking at how the subscribers and the end consumers are reporting the messages, and how you can actually, again, also look at, there are going to be, without giving away too much of the secret sauce, there's different types of volumetrics and different data patterns, and so pattern recognition that you also use to recognize when these attacks are happening.
Right. What happens? Let's say RCS allows rich media. Attackers are embedding malicious links in images, and for example, Proofpoints. How can solutions that your company is given to its customer address this through what? Better image analysis, or how do you try it?
That's correct. That's correct. So yes, we've made significant investments in image detection, computer vision, and image processing. Those are key areas that need focus because that is one of the, I wouldn't say new frontiers, it's been happening, but the growth in the volume of embedded messages within images that are malicious has certainly been growing. And so the other factor is that when you pull out these embedded links, being able to know if that's malicious, and we have a Proofpoint has a broad amount of threat intelligence, so we are able to detect and understand when these are malicious. So it's a combination of having the capabilities for the image detection and being able to pull out the embedded links, but then it's also the vast amount of data and information that you have at your hands to identify when these are malicious. So those are some important factors in being able to improve the protection for consumers for advanced images.
Let's take illegal goods promotion. How can content moderation and inspection help keep RCS secure? I mean, it's a very interesting discussion in this moment when, I mean, in the US and everywhere, the trend seems to be less regulation, the better.
Yeah, so I believe, when we're discussing content moderation, we're really talking about RBM. So what happens in RBM is that in RBM, the message terminates in the operator's network at a gateway before being sent from the gateway to the end recipient. So this allows for content inspection in the same manner that things are done today from an automated perspective, using AI, content fingerprinting, machine learning, novel algorithms that we have within the technology. And so that's really how you manage, having the harmful content, illegal goods flow through. So it's still using similar technology, more advanced, obviously, technology. As the attackers get more sophisticated, we have to get more sophisticated. But that's really the focus. And we have a suite of products that address that. We have a business messaging management platform as well as a mobile sender security platform that are focused on ensuring that the malicious content that's within the RBM messaging isn't harmful, or sorry, isn't delivered to the end consumer.
Is AI a friend or a foe? I mean, of course, attacks are more sophisticated, probably, but defenses as well, isn't it?
Right. So AI is, to be very honest, still in the early stages. We haven't seen a major shift in the use of AI. Obviously, there is some. It's very easy to go and create content that sounds real using AI. But we haven't seen what I'd call dramatic step function in the way that attackers are using AI. That said, it could happen at any time. I mean, these people are smart, crafty, and obviously they really don't have any reservations about using any tool that they can to defraud and attack consumers and people and infrastructure. But on the flip side, we do use AI. We have a very significant investment in AI through Proofpoint. Proofpoint's obviously a broad-based protection provider, and we leverage the overall investment within Proofpoint to provide tools that can allow us to combat these attackers. So it's really another piece of the arms race, for lack of better terms. The attackers get more sophisticated, and we use AI to get more sophisticated, and we continue the arms race to keep up with the attackers using AI.
With the rise of encryption, how are telecom operators' responsibilities evolving? What role should CSPS, the communication service providers, and the terminating operators play in securing RCS? What should they do?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so the message senders or the CSPs actually have almost more responsibility within RCS because they need to make sure that they are vetting as well as they're working with a solution like our platform for mobile sender security that protects their content, that provides the acceptable user policy, that is making sure that all the campaigns are registered, that all these pieces are in place. So this is, and then at the end too, is that it really gets back to the end-to-end infrastructure and how this works, and can the end consumers report, and you provide that feedback all the way to the CSP and provide information there, not directly providing that data to them, but using it within your platform to deliver a solution that provides that protection. So the responsibility in this is end to end, and that's one of the challenges that is we've always seen is that it's a very complex ecosystem, and everybody has their part to play to provide the level of protection of the end consumers and of the business messaging to ensure that this is that there aren't a lot of open paths for the attackers.
Try to simplify complexity. If you had to list 3-4 things that telecom operators and companies like yours, like Proofpoint, should do to help maintain user trust in RCS in particular and ensure security, what would be your list if you have one?
Yeah, I think number one on the list is collaboration and making sure that everybody's working together. I think that that's obviously one of the pieces. But if you want to get down to the really focus on the technical pieces, and is that obviously that having the sender reputation is critical. I mean, that can be used throughout the ecosystem to ensure that that the malicious attackers are being blocked. I think the ability to collaborate with enterprise brands and work with them and make sure that they understand the importance of this is very important. And also the ability to ensure that the data flow, and when I say the data flow, I mean all of the data on malicious attacks, what's happening in the world, in the ecosystem, that flows from MNO, aggregator, mobile sender, that everyone is aware of what's happening. So those are kind of some of the key things that need to be done in sort of a more ecosystem-friendly approach. I'm not as much focused on, there's plenty of technology and plenty of things that can be done there. I think it really gets down to everyone working together to ensure that end-to-end, even the consumers and the brands that are using the platform are aware of what can be done to ensure that the protection is there.
Right, so collaboration is paramount.
Collaboration is definitely paramount.
Could you figure out for us, or even from things that happened to you in your business, how should organization and industry players collaborate to address the issues we are talking about?
Okay. I mean, certainly working together, understanding, for working with, for example, us in Proofpoint, we're happy to work with our partners to understand and help them through this. I think that it's important that network operators roll out subscriber reporting if they don't already offer this. That feedback is critical. So there's a couple examples of what can be done. I think to me it really means that I have to be careful how I say this, but there are different levels of effort or different levels of interest, I would say, in protecting all the end consumers in the entire network. And I think that it's important that everyone be focused on making sure that the network is secure. And when I say the network, I mean the overall ecosystem is secure.
Okay, so emerging threats in RCS. biggest piece of advice for telecom operators and service providers and end users? So three things to ensure secure messaging. I know that, it's the $1 billion question, but that's business.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would think the first and I think the most important is to make sure that everyone has the ability to report messages and get that back. There's just a treasure trove of information that can be gotten there that is really critical to get a pulse on what's happening and understand, attacks that are going on. I think that's one critical thing. I think education and collaborating with all the, not just the consumers, but the brands and everyone to make sure that they are aware if they are being used, if there's smishing campaigns that are being used against the brands, if, the consumers may not know the types of attacks that are happening. So I think those are an important factors. And then I think really working with the various enforcement agencies that are around the globe and getting everyone on the same page. We do collaborate, and obviously as much as we can in that area. I think that those are really if I could think of three of the big things that we could do to make things better.
What would you put regulation in this list as,
I think it's important. I
main
think that
thing or one of the main things, or
I absolutely think that regulation is part of the factor. It's a challenging thing because sometimes regulations can have adverse impacts, and so people want to be cautious and careful
that's
about
a
that.
big critic for
So,
European Union
yeah,
attitudes.
and so various, without addressing, the specific ones, it can be a challenge. But on the other side is that some partners within the ecosystem don't necessarily take action unless there is regulation. And so I think that it certainly has a part of the overall solution is to have at least some sort of enforcement agencies that are looking at this. But that is a very, very tricky question because again, we've seen things that can be have very adverse effects based on some regulations in the past. So, obviously we want to be very careful about that.
We don't want to stop the revolution, but try to
That's right.
try to help. That's the point with regulation. Michael Laudon, Vice President of Cloudmark at Proofpoint. Thank you, Michael, for
Thank you.
sharing your insights. And that's all for this episode of Perspective, the MEF podcast, where experts and industry leaders talk about what they think, say, and expect in the world of technology, telecommunications, and innovative mobile services. Stay tuned. From Riccardo Amati, goodbye, and good luck with your work.
Thanks for listening to Perspectives in Mobile. Join us next as we explore telecoms, technology, and mobile innovations. Stay tuned, stay connected, and let's unlock the mobile potential together.